Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today at Juanette's Crafting Corner for our Slow Stitch Saturday. In today's video, I thought we need to add some small doilies or lace in our next little area of our snippet roll. And I have just a couple of pieces here that I thought we might add. And I'm going to add them with just using some of this DMC ecru thread. So I'm going to thread up a needle and have that available for us to stitch this lace or doilies that we pick out down. And I'm going to use 3 strands. And let me get those pulled apart. It helps me if I pull off my glasses. And like I said, when you are creating your snippet roll, you want it to be uneven. You don't want everything to be totally lined up. Let's see. This is probably good enough. I don't even know what kind of needle this is. I have a bunch of needles here on my desk. This actually used to be a stamp holder. You used to put your stamps through here, and a friend of mine bought it for me at an antique store, and then I filled it with walnut shells and created a pin cushion. So I created that one. I think I have a video on that. So let's just tie up our knots so we have that available. And let's see how we want to add this. So again, the next prompt is either a small doily or lace. And I like the way that looks there. I think that is good. And then, for instance, like this small piece here, don't throw this away. You might be able to tuck it in somewhere. Actually, you know what? I've decided. So we're going to put that there. I like that. And then let's see what that looks like headed over this way. And then I don't like it even there, so that doesn't work. I could put that like that. Let's put that back again. Let's see what this looks like. Because again, I think I told you, we want to extend this further, because then underneath here is where we may want to start putting down fabrics. Let's see what this looks like underneath here. Okay, I like that. I like those 3 things like that. And then after we get those stitched down, we could maybe come in here and add a couple of other layers. But I like that right there. So let's go ahead and stitch these down. And it's just going to be a very simple in and out stitch to tack these down. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited because I am filming this on Thursday, and this will air on Saturday. And Friday morning, my daughter and I are going up to their house in Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's dropping down into the 40s at night. And I think the highs in the day are either the low 60s, mid 60s maybe. And So it's going to be so much cooler than it is here. Today's the 11th of September, and by this time, us people that live here in Arizona are so sick of the heat. We've just had it. We are so ready for it to be over. This is going to be a pretty simple video. I'm still not sure if I'm going to add anything over the top of this yet, or just have this as the doily and the lace. And oh, thank you guys for going ahead and putting on our Facebook group pictures of what you have done with your snippet roll. I know a couple of people have gone ahead and put charms or stitched butterflies, and I'm sure those two things will be at some point one of the prompts. So yeah. And like I said, I'm just going to tack this down right here. I'm going to leave this area open. I'm not going to sew that down in case I want to add something and tuck that underneath there. So leave yourself room so that if you want to add either some fibers underneath there, you can. I did pull out a few fibers here. I was going to maybe thread them through some of these areas, but I haven't decided yet. We're just tacking this down first. So yeah, so it should be a fun weekend. We can only stay one night up there because we have to come back. My daughter is one of the leaders for the young women at church, and so she has to be at church on Sunday to help teach the young women, so she can't stay up there that late. So I love how that tucked underneath there. So now we can start adding this. And do you see how this color of thread just blends in with the lace? Oh, you know what? I've decided this would be a perfect little place to add a charm there. So we're going to do that. We're going to add a little charm onto this piece. So if you have charms, go ahead and start looking through them and see what you want to add. Okay. So I think I'm going to stop there for now, because like I said, I want to leave that part open because that's where I'm going to start adding some fabric. I could go over this a tiny little bit more. Let's just add a couple of more stitches here. And then let's look through my charms and see what charm we could sew on here. Now remember, you don't have to go out and buy any lace or doilies. You can find them at Goodwill store. you could go through your closet and look to see what maybe a blouse or a dress that has lace on it, and you could tear some of that off if you were going to get rid of that anyway. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is put the camera on hold and see what kind of charm we can put there. I went through my little charms and buttons that I have. I have this one button here that is like a tape measure. And then I have one, again, a button that is like a spool of thread. Then I found two charms that I think also look like maybe they're spools of thread wound around something. But this is the one that I've decided on. Look at this cute little charm here. It's a pair of scissors. And so I think that's the perfect place for them because they show up really well. So let's just add these here. And all I'm going to do is use this thread that I already had, the ecru thread. And what I'm going to do is just come up through here first, find that, and then slip the little charm on there. And then sew it down. Yeah, I think this is very, very cute. So I know a lot of people have asked me about Fiona and how she's doing with her itching, and she's still struggling. She was itching so much and licking her paws so much that it actually caused the right back paw to become raw, and it was so sore that she wouldn't walk on it. So she was hopping around the house. So I put the socks back on her, and I even ordered her her own special doggy socks. And then I thought, well, maybe it's her food. So I'm making her food for her now. I went and bought some lamb and I ground it up myself. I hardly cook like this for my son and I. I ground it up myself and cooked it. And then I cooked some rice and some carrots. Look at that. Isn't that cute? Let's tie that off. And so I've mixed it all together. And what I'm doing is I'm only adding a little bit at a time to the kibble she's already eating, just because I don't want to change her food completely. So, right off the bat, because sometimes that causes problems with their little digestion. So we'll do it in phases. Right now I'm giving her a full cup of her regular kibble and then a third of a cup of the homemade food. And I kind of like that off to the side, but should I put a stitch? I think I'm going to leave it for now. I don't know if I want another stitch, but now I thought let's go ahead and add some fabric to this. Let's go ahead and introduce fabric. So we have as our prompt doilies and lace and lace, a charm, and let's add some fabric. And the other thing I thought is I would show you guys a bullion stitch. So the fabrics that I have decided to use, I'm going to bring in purple now. And I like this Tim Holtz fabric that I have. And so let's just snip off part here. It doesn't look I'm going to be putting that trim that I had pulled out. We're just going to tear it. And how much do I want underneath here? Or how do I want this? How do I want to place this here? I could just do one area. I think I'm going to do that. Sorry, my scissors are caught up in that twine. So let's just, again, cut this and tear it. I like these flowers here. Okay, well, I like that. That is perfect to me, just like that. So let's bring in some purple. And now what you're going to need for this stitch, it's called a bullion knot. Let me pull it up in the book here so you guys can see. I'm going to show you the book that I love. I have bought a copy. Let's see. It's A to Z of embroidery stitches. And let me pull it off to the side. And here is what it says about a bullion knot. A bullion knot is a raised stitch of twisted thread lying on top of fabric. There is no formula for the perfect bullion, but practice making bullions using different threads, varying the length of the stitch, the number of threads, and the number of wraps. Understanding how a stitch is formed helps to alleviate problems. We use the number 8 straw needle and 2 strands of thread. I think I'm going to use more strands. I'm going to use 3. And so again, they said they use a straw or a milliner's needle. And so that's what I'm going to use, which is this one right here. And the thing about this needle is it doesn't bow out here. So you will be able to easily unwrap the thread as it comes through your bullion knot. Let me show it, and it might be a little bit easier to explain it. Let's see. I like this deep purple. I think I have a couple of other ones over here. That's only 2 strands. This will work because it already is 3 strands here. So I'm going to thread up this needle. And of course, just right over to my right is a needle threader, but will I get it? No, because I'm just going to persevere with this. And let's tie off our knot. And I'm going to set this here for just a minute because in the meantime, I am going to tack down this fabric here so it doesn't move on me. So once again, I'm just going to grab this real thin thread. There we go. I usually like to have some of it threaded up on a needle already. Oh, I think I do. Here it is. Yeah, I have a little bit already threaded up, so I can just put this out of the way. And let's just tack this down. And we want it right there. So I'm just going to come up here and make tiny little stitches just to hold that down. Now in last Saturday's video, we did colonial knots. So you could, if you wanted, hold this down with some colonial knots. But I'm going to just keep it just simple with this thread right here. And one more over here. And actually what I can do now is, because now I want to tack this little doily all the way down, I'm going to run some stitches through it. I had the best lunch, you guys. So yesterday I decided I wanted to make some pinto beans. You know, I was born and raised here in the Southwest, and especially New Mexico, we eat a lot of pinto beans. And I was kind of cleaning out my pantry, and I had a big bag of pinto beans, and I thought, okay, I need to make those. So I put them in the crock pot yesterday, and so of course they were ready today. And so it was a very southern kind of a meal that I grew up on, lots of carbs. It was pinto beans, fried potatoes, homemade coleslaw. I did have some avocado, and then flour tortillas. And that was lunch. Okay, so that's tacked down. Let's tie this off. My son is off work today, so it was nice to be able to have lunch with him. And then I laid down and took a nap, except for, the dang leg cramps. I got a leg cramp while I was sleeping, and of course then that wakes you up, and then I took my medicine, and it just is never a good sleep after that. But anyway, it is what it is. Now, before I stitch this down, and I should have gone ahead and stitched that down, but I didn't. I'm wondering if I want to put something else underneath here. Before we do that, let me just show you the bullion knots here. I want to do a few of them. I just need to take a little drink of water. Okay, so we have our 3 strands of DMC. And so what you're going to do is come up at one point, and then you are going to go down at another point and then come up close to where your original point was. So there it is, close. And then so I'm looking and I can see the distance here. So because I've been doing a lot of bullion knots, I kind of know how many wraps. But if you do a lot more wraps than what the length is of this area, it's okay, because what will happen is it will just loop around. So what you're going to do is push your needle toward the end. Then you're going to grab your thread that is close to where you first came up through. Then you went through here, and you're going to start doing some wraps. And so what you're going to do is put this finger underneath, wrap and pull down, wrap and pull down. Now you want to make sure that you don't wrap the thread real tight. You want it to be fairly loose, because you need to pull all of this thread through this needle. And I've got definitely a longer bit than what the length of my stitch is, but that's okay, because I'll show you what's going to happen. And let's see, I thought I had a little rubber thing here that would help it pull through if I need it. But, oh yeah, here it is over here. You've seen me use this little rubber thing. It does help if you need help pulling things through. But anyway, we'll see if I have to have that. So what you're going to do is have your thumb and your index finger toward the bottom here, and you're going to try to start pulling that through. Now I can tell it's a little bit difficult, but it did come through. I'm still holding the thread. I'm bringing this all the way through, and as it goes through, do you see how that made that nice little cute little kind of snake thing? And then what we're going to do is go back down through close to where we had come up, and you see how it's raised up there like that, and those little twists are in there. Isn't that a cute little stitch? Let's make another one, except for this time we're going to come up close here where the previous one was. And we're going to go out from it. So out a ways, and then back in close to where we had originally come out. And again, because I'm right-handed, I need to turn this around, because I will wrap with this right hand. Okay, so we will pull that close to the end, and we will start with our wraps. And I'm going to count this time. I don't know how many I did this time, but I think it's a little bit longer than there. So let's just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push it down a little bit. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We got quite a few. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's just do a lot. Okay, we have 20. Let me grab my little rubbery thing. So I'm holding on. I'm going to grab the needle and pull all of that through. And you see how it's kind of going through that middle thread? I don't know if you guys can see that, but I pull it all the way through. See how that goes? And then it made a little curve. And then I'm going to go down next to where we had originally come up. And then that is our second little bullion knot. And now you always want an uneven amount. I don't want to keep that at 2. So I'm going to do a third one. And you know what? Let's change our thread to a lighter color. So I'm going to tie this off. And let's bring a light lavender color that I have over here. I think that, like I said, this was only 2 strands, but because it's laying over here, I'm just going to use it. I'm going to take the other one off, thread this one. There we go. Tie off our end here. Okay. So what we're going to do is come up close to where the other 2 had ended in the center there. Come up. And let's do this one really long. We're going to go way back here. Way back here. And then up close to where we had originally started. That's pretty close. I don't know how this is going to look with only 2 strands, but we'll see. So we're going to have to do quite a few wraps because this is a lot longer, but let's just see. And I don't have to count because I'll just look at it. Now, sometimes if you were doing some kind of, now see, I can see right here, I didn't pull one of those close. They're uneven, so I'm going to take them all off. I think the real correct way you're supposed to do it is wrap and bring it down, wrap and bring it down. That's the way I think you're really supposed to do it, so that they're all nice and even. So I was teaching you guys incorrectly. I was doing a bunch of wraps and then pulling it down, but you're supposed to wrap and then bring it all the way down. And I can tell by feeling it that it is going all the way down. And you could see that if you pulled your thread too tight, it would be difficult to pull all of these through. Okay, I think that's going to be good enough. And then I'm going to take my little rubber thing. And sometimes you have to finagle it a little bit. And I've lost it, so I need to grab it up at the top again and pull that needle through all of that thread. Pull it, pull it. There. Okay, and then I'm going to go down to where I had originally started. Now that looks almost like a little, that looks funny to me. It almost looks like a little fork or something. So I'm going to do some more. I don't like the way that looks. So let's do a couple more here. Up and then through and around. Yeah, I didn't want that to look like a fork, a pitchfork or anything like that. That was funny looking. Okay, I'm going to turn it around so that I can use my right hand to do some wraps. I think I'm going to make this one shorter. Okay, we're going to go with that. Pull my needle through all of that. There we go. Pull it and then bring it this way. Yeah. You can make roses with these wraps. And I'm going to do one out this way, a tiny one. You can either go in here at the base here, or you can come in there. Either way, let's just do this. We're going to come in through the base there, close. And I'm going to go tiny here because I don't have a ton of thread. And so I'm just going to do a small little one. And up close, bring your needle to the end and get your threads that you're going to wrap around. My tail thread is wrapped around, so I'm going to unwrap it so that I can have a little bit more thread to work with. Okay, I'm going to pull this thread. So once again, I have a little bit more thread to work with. And then I'm going to start with some wraps and bring it down. You just need to make sure that you don't pull this thread too much and you end up pulling your thread out of your needle. Okay, that's good. I'll lay it down and pull it all the way through. Okay, and so then we came there. Now I will want to do a few more bullion knots here. That looks kind of funny that way, just like there. To me, it needs a little bit more. Let's tie this off and then we will see what our next, our next step will be. Yes. I thought I would maybe get away with not having to rethread the needle, but I probably should, just so that I make sure that I've got a double knot here. You don't want this stuff to come undone. Oops. Okay. Let's lay this out and see what it looks like. I like that. Yeah, we need a little bit more something down here. We could do this. That's too symmetrical. We could do this. I do like that. I like that because then we still have a little bit of this way. So let's see if I have enough of this thread to anchor this little piece of trim down, and then we'll see what else we want to do down here. We may want to do some more bullion knots. I think I'm going to bring some bullion knots up this way. So let's lay this down here. And we will just attach this. I wondered if that was going to happen because this thread is not that long. Oh. Let's just rethread this. Okay, you guys should be yelling at me. Get a threader, Hewitt. Save yourself the agony and the frustration. Oh. So we have a couple of different laces and trims here. And then we have the bullion knots. We have a little bit of fabric. We've done a lot today, you guys. We've done well. And I like that we pulled in a little bit of purple or lavender. Okay. And then we will trim that edge off there. And don't, if you had something like this, don't throw it away. Keep it. You can always add it somewhere. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah. Yes, what I'm going to do off camera is do some bullion knots up into this area so that we bring our lavender and purple colors up here. And then I will be back with you guys. I finished with some more bullion knots in here. I brought some down here. I put a few up in here to help that flow. And this area right here in a future video may be a place for a small button. We haven't brought buttons in yet, But this is this week's prompts: doilies and or lace or trims, a charm, a little bit of fabric, and some bullion knots. So that's what it looks like at this point. I think we're doing well with this. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys on Tuesday for Journal Making Tuesday. Thanks, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.